Theos, and I'm excited to make a presentation about Rocket Tennis, which is a program that I created. It actually has evolved into a family tennis program. To start out actually showing a video, give you an idea of what it's about. I'd like to thank Jenny Robb, actually. Jenny Robb put that video together, and she did a terrific job. As you can see, that was from multiple sites. And how many of you have had the opportunity, when you were very, very young, to play tennis with family members? Anybody here? Okay. How many of you have had the chance to play with your own kids or your own families as adults? Okay, and now how many of you offer family tennis programs for, say, the entry level? Okay, a couple of you do. Okay, and that's terrific. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the value of family tennis in terms of getting players in and really what it can do for you and for the families that get involved. I don't believe that there's not one right way to approach family tennis. But I can share, or will share, some observations from the Rocket Tennis program that evolved into family tennis, and maybe you could take some of those away to your clubs and use some of those ideas. So Rocket Tennis developed a few years ago. There was an effort from the USTA to get more kids 10 and under. There was a grant, actually, to get kids 10 and under playing tennis. And we were toward the end of that grant, and we were deciding what to do in the last few months. I had some concerns with the way that USTA Junior Team Tennis operated. There were some challenges. And I thought, well, why don't we try something a little bit different? And that's what we did. So first thing was we wanted no travel for entry-level players. They would all play at the same facility each week for 6 weeks. Okay? It's just like when my daughter started playing soccer. She was an entry-level soccer player. We went to the same park every week. There was no reason to be driving all over the place to try soccer. Also wanted it to be gender neutral. As some of you know, we have in the past run into problems. Either there were too many boys or not enough boys or not enough girls. We wanted the boys and the girls to be able to play against each other. We formed teams very quickly. The kids were actually competing starting the second week, so they enjoyed being on teams right away. And we also wanted 2 courts to be enough. We would set up from fence to fence. As you all know, you could set up 6 mini courts on 1 regular tennis court or 12 mini courts on 2 courts. So that would accommodate 24 singles players. A lot of our junior team tennis programs, I mean, it's terrific that we have large facilities that can accommodate many teams, but they have many courts, but there are a lot of parks with only 2 tennis courts, and we wanted something that could work in a smaller area. Also, we wanted to allow for kids who are 8 and under, or rather over 8 years old, to play on smaller courts. Entry level, why not start out on smaller courts? They don't have to go to a 60-foot court or a 78-foot court just because they're older than 8 years old. And we wanted the parents to be involved as well. Initially, we had the parents help out on court with group management, and then the very last week, we allowed them to play the last 15 minutes with their kids. And they had really a terrific time by playing with their kids. It was a very different experience. It was wonderful to have them out there helping out, but when they were actually able to experience it with their kids, it was entirely different. Now, from subsequent programs, we started to get the parents more and more involved, playing with their kids, not just the last 15 minutes of the last class, but throughout the program and helping their kids develop their skills. And so that's kind of where it's really turned into family tennis. All right, so here are some takeaways from what we've learned over the last few years of running these programs throughout Alabama. The adaptive equipment and the smaller courts really matter, and they matter for a few reasons. The first thing is that the kids get a lot of reps by being able to play on the small court. There's no standing in line, so all of the kids are able to compete or play the entire time, so they're able to get lots of reps because of that. They're also able to get lots of reps because we're not standing in line, and then they're active the whole time because, actually, the size of the court creates the amount of time that they're rallying. So an example is my wife and I, family, we were on vacation, and I know some people are more fans of pickleball than others, but we had the chance to observe pickleball, and it was really terrific. And some of you may have had this experience where you would be on the backside of a tennis court and actually be able to observe one court where they're playing tennis and the second court where they're playing pickleball. And you could compare them side by side. And for me, and I didn't have a lot of experience with pickleball, and it's nothing, not necessarily promoting pickleball, but just an observation. The players were warming up to play doubles, tennis doubles on one court, and on the other court they're playing pickleball. During the time it took the ball to travel 78 feet on the tennis court, the pickleball players were able to actually get a rally going, and they had the ball go back and forth multiple times. So the sheer number of reps that they were getting during the period of one tennis rep, it was just a lot more. And by playing on smaller courts, the kids are able to get a lot more reps. The third factor is that by playing with their parents, they get more quality reps. Pairing them off, kids with each other, that works out very, very well. It's better than standing in line. But when they're playing with their parents, the parents are, we hope, more coordinated than the kids in the program. And so the ball keeps coming back, and they're getting a lot of quality reps. All of this is indicative of the value of playing on smaller tennis courts. Second factor is the parents perceive their own competence. I've had, and I'm sure many of you have had adults say that they have no talent in tennis, maybe they have tried it before, and they hit the ball over the fence. They used to be baseball or softball players, and as soon as they start playing on the smaller courts with their kids, they start to perceive that they themselves have some confidence in tennis where they didn't perceive that before, and it starts to build up their confidence, and that's very, very helpful. Kids want to compete against their parents on the smaller courts. We've discovered that after even a couple of weeks of the kids getting reps, they start wanting to play games against their parents and see if they can make mom and dad run around a little bit. You saw that in the video. I would say that if you take anything else away today, if you're going to get parents and kids playing together, I highly, highly recommend using smaller courts because they have that confidence right away. I have taught lessons. I've had, for me, just speaking for myself, if I would get a call or a parent would ask if I could run a family sort of tennis clinic or a private lesson, semi-private, where they have a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 14-year-old, and mom and dad. Oh, it was not something that I really, liked very much. It's just a challenging thing, particularly on the larger courts. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about money. So, it's not just, it is about the families, but then it's also about helping your programs. When we set up the 12 mini courts, like I said, we could accommodate 24 singles players. When we allow players to play doubles, we can accommodate more than that. One particular program, we allowed, there were some siblings that wanted in, so instead of 24, we allowed 25 in for an hour lesson, okay? And we actually, it was 4 lessons, okay? And one was from 6 to 7 p.m., and then there was another group from 7 to 8. Each one had 25 players, so we ended up with 50 juniors, and then the parents were playing in as well. We charged them $29 for that, for the 4 times, which is lower than the normal going rate for a group lesson. Basically made $1,450 off of that 8 hours of instruction. So we could have charged more. Actually, the program filled very, very quickly. So the suggestion after that was that we had priced it a little bit too low. But my point is that because you can accommodate so many players, you can make quite a bit of money off of the program, maybe more than you make off of a traditional tennis clinic. Now there's a practical reality from the standpoint of getting parents to actually play, that if you charge your normal rate for a group lesson and then you ask parents to come out and assist, the perception is that you are asking for free labor, right? I mean, you want them to, they're kind of doing your work for you. The positioning is very different though. If you charge less than your normal rate for your group lesson, and then you promote it as an opportunity, you're not charging the parents, so there's no charge to the parent. Free play with your kids. It costs less than the normal clinic. And you get the chance to play with your children. The positioning in the minds of the parents, at least in my experience, is very different than if you were to just charge your normal rate and then ask them to come out and help. And they're very, very willing to do that. One of the advantages of having the parents out there is that the parents learn progressions with their kids. They learn how to bump a ball over that, some things that they can do themselves. I'm sure many of you have had the opportunity to go out to public courts, and maybe you're playing on one court and you notice on the next court some people, family comes out, and maybe it's during the US Open or Wimbledon, and they see, you think, well, maybe they've seen tennis on television and they're excited, and then they can't rally, and then after a couple minutes they start getting kind of snippy with each other, and then maybe a little while later they give up on it. Well, by giving them some progression, some things that they can work on within the context of a clinic, they learn how to actually work with their kids a little bit. And the way that they position the fun in it is seeing the progression of their kids and being able to rally. And I've had that opportunity of being on a separate court and really giving some low compression balls to players. And it's interesting, the threshold of success, the way that they view it, is not like most of us, or all of us in here, would probably not be very satisfied with a rally that only goes 3 or 4 shots. But for them, it's amazing. I have observed the difference between families hitting 2 balls back, maybe 3 if they're lucky, and then I give them low compression balls, and now they're hitting the ball back 4 times or 5. Their reaction, they're very satisfied with that, where we wouldn't be. So it makes a big difference by giving them that opportunity, and knowing some progressions helps. Many of us recall that back in the day when you could go to a public park and find partners. I mean, one of the things that our hope is to get people hooked on tennis, that they want to play all the time. And for me, I started playing tennis in a public park in Chicago. And I knew that there were old men and all kinds of players at those public parks, evenings and weekends. After school, I could just go out there. We don't have as many of those venues anymore. And so one of the challenges is that if we get kids into tennis and they're really excited about it, who are they going to play with outside of their clinics? Now, you may very well have opportunities in your programs for the kids to keep playing, but how much better is it if they have people in their own homes who play tennis, that they can just go out evenings and weekends and hit together? And by getting that repetition, they start to improve a lot more. In the programs that you saw there, I've asked parents, hey, how many of you had a chance to go out and hit with your kids? And most of them, from one clinic to the next, and many of them would say, yeah, we've gone out and hit. And as I'm sure many of you have seen, the difference between a player who goes out and takes a clinic and just shows up for that clinic once a week for however many weeks, and a player who's in that same clinic but is able to get just 1 additional hour every week, the difference is profound in terms of their skill development. So just helping them have someone in their own home who plays is very, very helpful. Family tennis doesn't have to be a permanent kind of program in the sense that you're going to keep them in that program for an extended period of time. If you can just get them excited about playing together, excited about tennis, very quickly you can transition them into your traditional tennis clinics. Where we started out racket tennis with 6 lessons, now it's down to 4. And then after those 4 lessons at facilities, players will transition into the normal clinics. Now, on the back end, sometimes you have kids who start taking lessons and then their parents will sign up separately. But the prospects for that seem a lot less. But if you can get them actually playing together, that yeah, the parents are going to be a little bit more likely to play in a follow-up program. And family tennis, I've been talking about entry level. It doesn't have to just be for entry level. Ran a family tennis clinic for my daughter's middle school team, the parents and kids. And actually, we ran into a parent at the grocery store a week later, and she said that she had gone out and hit with her daughter after that. And so, you know, these players are a little bit stronger, but they enjoyed playing tennis together as well. To finish, if you just consider what family tennis could mean to your members, you could consider what it means to your program, that you could actually maybe make more money than you're making on some of your group lessons and really get players hooked on tennis. I'm reminded there's a quote from Arthur Ashe that from what we get, we can make a living. What we give, however, makes a life. This is one of those opportunities where you can make a little bit more money potentially, but then you're also making a difference in the lives of the people who are out there and getting them into tennis maybe for the rest of their lives. And I urge you to give it a try. Thank you.